Chapter 5. The Pull. The black abyss of the Atlantic pressed against La Serena's scratched plexiglass dome, the submersible's floodlights barely piercing the dark as it descended past 3,000 feet into the trench off Arecibo. It was July 13th, 1976, the air inside the sub stale with oil, sweat, and the metallic tang of fear. Elias Marrow sat strapped into a bolted seat, his hands clutching a waterproof case containing the 1969 reel-to-reel tape, its wet, guttural chant a pulse that throbbed in his chest, a siren song to the Luz del Abismo. His denim shirt was damp, his gray-streaked beard itched, his eyes burned from sleepless nights haunted by dreams of drowning in a sea of stars. The tape, the green glow on the horizon, Rosa's unanswered plea, the radio's unprompted signal. All had led to this dive, a plunge into the truth he'd chased since his MIT ruin. Captain Rojas, grizzled and tense, piloted the sub, his Navy surplus jacket stained, his pale blue eyes flicking between the flickering control panel and the void outside. The sub's interior was a claustrophobic maze of wires, gauges, and patched metal, the sonar screen casting a green glow that flickered like the light they'd seen at dusk. The depth gauge ticked past 3,200 feet, each increment a step deeper into the trench, a chasm that defied charts, a wound in the ocean's floor. The radio, still spitting the chant when they'd submerged, was silent now, but its echo lingered in Elias's bones, a pulse that whispered his name, urging him downward. Rojas's story of vanished divers, their scream not pain but awe, haunted the tight space, a warning Elias ignored, his obsession of fire that burned hotter than fear. A sudden jolt shook the sub, the control panel sparking, the floodlights flickering like a dying pulse. Elias gripped his seat, the tape's case digging into his chest, his heart racing. "What the hell was that?" he snapped, his voice rough, scraped raw by nicotine and adrenaline, his eyes darting to the gauges, their needles twitching wildly. Rojas cursed, his hands wrestling the controls, the sub lurching as if caught in a current that shouldn't exist at this depth. "Equipment's going haywire," he growled, his accent thick with Puerto Rican grit, his face taut with anger. "Compasses spinning, sonars glitching, lights cutting out. This ain't mechanical, gringo. This is your damn tape, your Luz del Abismo, screwing with us." He slammed a fist on the panel, the gauges rattling, the sonar screen flashing static, its green blips spiraling, a pattern that matched the sketches in Elias's stolen notebook, the crack in El Coral's mirror, the eyes in his dreams. Elias leaned forward, his breath shallow, his eyes locked on the sonar, the spiraling blips a confirmation, a beacon. "It's not the tape," he said, his voice fierce, his hands trembling with excitement, not fear. "It's the trench, the signal, something down there. Keep going, Rojas. We're close, I can feel it." The chant surged in his head, a pulse that matched the sonar's rhythm, drowning Rojas's curses, the hull's groans, the sea's crushing weight. He grabbed the tape recorder, its reels still, but he tested the microphone, the hiss a ritual to anchor him against the sub's lurching, the flickering lights, the sense of being watched, not by Rojas, but by something deeper, older, alive. Another spark erupted from the panel, the floodlights stuttering, plunging the sub into brief darkness before flaring back, weaker, their beams swallowed by the black water. The depth gauge hit 3,500 feet, the pressure of fist squeezing the hull, the creaks louder, sharper, like the sub was screaming. Rojas's hands moved faster, flipping switches, rerouting power, his curses a litany in Spanish and English, his dread a palpable weight in the tight space. "This is your fault, Marrow," he spat, his eyes blazing, his scarred face glistening with sweat. "You and your damn obsession, dragging us into this hole. I dove for the Navy, saw what the trench does. You're gonna kill us both." His voice cracked, a rare break in his grizzled armor, a man who'd heard the diver's scream and felt its echo now, in the sub's failing systems, the trench's pull. Elias's heart pounded, but his excitement burned hotter, the chant of fire that consumed Rojas's fear, the malfunctioning equipment, the sea's threat. "We're not dying," he said, his voice steady, his eyes wild with the fire that had kept him alive since his fall. "This is it, Rojas, the signal, the light, the truth. The compasses, the sonar, they're reacting to something real, not human. Keep diving, we're almost there." He pointed to the sonar, its spiraling blips tighter now, a pattern that wasn't random but deliberate, a map to the trench's heart, a confirmation of Don Pepe's light, Javier's disk, the Navy's buried files, the truth he'd die to uncover. The sub lurched again, a violent shudder that threw Elias against his straps, the tape recorder clattering to the floor, its case cracking but holding. The floodlights flickered, casting jagged shadows across the sub's interior, the plexiglass dome creaking like it might shatter. The depth gauge ticked to 3,800 feet, the pressure a relentless force, the hull's groans a chorus that matched the chant in Elias's head, a pulse that whispered his name, his sins, his hunger. Rojas wrestled the controls, his hands shaking now, his curses softer, resigned, like a man who knew the sea's hunger and saw it closing in. "You're loco," he muttered, but he didn't stop, didn't turn back, his eyes flicking to the sonar, the spiraling blips a siren song he couldn't ignore, a challenge he couldn't refuse. Elias retrieved the recorder, his hands trembling but precise, checking the reels, the microphone, the batteries, a ritual to steady his nerves against the sub's lurching, the flickering lights, the chance pull. The camera was bolted to the sub's frame, its film ready, its lens aimed at the void outside, waiting for the light, the truth, the God. The floodlights flickered again, weaker, their beams barely reaching the water, revealing nothing but black, a void that wasn't empty but alive, watching. The sonar pinged faster, its blips coalescing into shapes, disks, spirals, things that moved too fast, too deep, echoing the Navy's anomalies, Javier's disk, Pepe's light. Elias's breath came in gasps, his eyes wide, his heart racing, the chant a pulse that matched the sonar's rhythm, a beacon to the abyss. The depth gauge hit 4,000 feet, the hull's groans a scream, the pressure a weight that pressed against his chest, his mind, his soul. Rojas's hands were steady now, his dread buried under necessity, a captain facing a storm he couldn't outrun, a man who'd signed up for the dive and would see it through, no matter what waited below. La Sirena shuddered as it sank past 4,500 feet, the submersible's hull groaning under the Atlantic's crushing weight, the darkness beyond the plexiglass dome absolute, a void that swallowed the flickering floodlights. The depth gauge ticked relentlessly, the pressure a fist tightening around the sub, and Elias's heart raced, not with fear but with a feverish excitement. The trench's call louder than ever, promising a truth he'd die to uncover. Rojas wrestled the controls, his grizzled hands steady despite the sweat beading on his scarred face, his pale blue eyes darting between the gauges and the void outside. "We're too deep," he growled, his voice a low rumble, his accent thick with Puerto Rican grit. "Systems are frying, sonar's gone loco, lights are dying. Whatever's down here, it don't want us." He flipped a switch, rerouting power, but the floodlights flickered again, casting jagged shadows across the sub's cramped interior, a maze of wires and bolted seats that smelled of oil and fear. Elias leaned forward, his breath shallow, his eyes locked on the sonar, its green blips tightening into a single massive shape, a structure, not a wreck, not a rock, but something deliberate, too vast to be natural. "There," he whispered, his voice trembling with awe, his finger jabbing at the screen. "That's it, Rojas. Something's down there, something big. Keep going." The chant surged in his head, a wet, guttural pulse that matched the sonar's rhythm. Rojas cursed, his hands shaking now, the sub lurching as if caught in a current that defied the trench's stillness. His eyes flicking to the sonar, the shape growing clearer, its edges curved, spiraling, a pattern that wasn't static but moving, shifting. The depth gauge hit 4,700 feet, the hull's groans sharper, a scream that echoed the diver's last transmission Rojas had described, a sound not of pain but of awe, of seeing something that broke the mind. Elias ignored the warning, his excitement of fire that consumed the sub's failing systems, Rojas's dread, the sea's crushing weight. Then they saw it, through the dome's scratched surface, illuminated by the faltering floodlights, a massive structure looming in the dark, its surface gleaming like liquid metal, not solid but fluid, rippling as if breathing. It was no ship, no wreck, but a living thing, its form vast, stretching beyond the light's reach, its curves etched with spiraling patterns that pulsed with a faint green glow, a rhythm that matched the chant in Elias's head, the sonar's blips, the tape's pulse. The structure wasn't anchored to the trench's floor but hovered, suspended in the water, its edges soft, organic, like the skin of some deep-sea creature. Yet its scale was monumental, a cathedral of alien design, a machine that wasn't a machine but a presence, awake, aware. Elias's breath caught, his heart pounding, his hands trembling as he grabbed the 16mm camera, its lens aimed at the structure, the film rolling, capturing the impossible. "My God," he whispered, his voice raw, his eyes wide with awe, not fear, a scientist seeing the universe crack open, a man who'd lost everything. MIT Ellen, his name, finding redemption in this moment. It's alive, Rojas. It's not a ship. It's something else, something new. He fumbled for the tape recorder, its microphone humming, recording the silence that wasn't silent but heavy with the chance echo, a pulse that filled the sub, the sea his bones. Rojas froze, his hands on the controls, his face pale, his eyes locked on the structure, its liquid surface reflecting the sub's lights in a way that made them seem alive, moving. Madre de Dios, he muttered, crossing himself, his voice barely audible, his dread breaking through his grizzled armor. That ain't no ship, gringo. That's what took my divers, what's been taking men for years. We gotta get out now. He reached for the throttle, his hands shaking, but the sub didn't respond, its systems locked, the gauges spinning, the sonar screen a chaos of spirals, a map to a truth that wasn't meant for them. Elias ignored him, his eyes fixed on the structure, its spiraling patterns hypnotic, a mirror to the chance rhythm, the dreams of spiraling eyes. He scribbled in his new notebook, its pages already filling with sketches of the structure, its curves, its glow, his hand moving on its own, tracing patterns he didn't understand but felt, a language that wasn't human but alive, speaking to him, through him. It's not a wreck, he muttered, his voice a feverish chant, his pencil snapping under the pressure, the lead smearing across the page. It's a system, a biology. The words slipped out, a nod to Miguel's warning, but Elias didn't flinch, his awe of fire that burned away fear, doubt, the sub's failing systems. The structure pulsed, its green glow intensifying, a heartbeat that shook the water, the sub, the air inside La Sirena. The floodlights died completely, plunging the sub into darkness, the only light now the structure's glow, filtering through the dome, casting eerie patterns across the sub's interior, spirals that moved, danced, alive. Elias's heart raced, his breath coming in gasps, his hands clutching the tape's case, its warmth a burning coal, a confirmation that this was real, not a dream, not madness, but data, a truth he'd capture, a signal he'd show the world. The sonar pinged faster, its blips a chorus, a song that wasn't sound but intent, a summons that clawed at his mind, pulling him closer, to the structure, to the thing. Rojas's voice broke through, a desperate shout, his hands slamming the controls, the sub lurching but not rising, caught in a force that wasn't current but will, a pull that wasn't physical but alive. It's got us, Marrow, he yelled, his eyes wide, his face a mask of panic, a captain losing his ship, his nerve, his world. This thing's alive, it's pulling us in. You did this, you and your damn tape. He grabbed a wrench, as if he could fight the structure, the sea, the god, but his hands shook, his curses fading into a whimper. A man who'd faced storms, but not this, not a presence that saw him, knew him, claimed him. Elias didn't respond, his eyes locked on the structure, its liquid surface rippling, its spirals tightening. A pattern that wasn't just seen but felt, a vibration that shook his teeth, his spine, his soul. The chant was everywhere, a pulse in his bones, whispering his name, a voice that wasn't human but knew him, saw him, claimed him, a summons to a truth he'd die to uncover. The sub descended, the depth gauge ticking past 4,800 feet, the hull's groans a scream, the pressure a weight that pressed against his chest, his mind, his soul. The structure loomed closer, its glow filling the dome, a light that wasn't light but life, a presence that wasn't machine but God, a truth that wasn't meant for them but was theirs now, undeniable, inescapable. Elias scribbled faster, his notebook filling with spirals, curves, fragments of a language he didn't know but felt, a map to the structure's heart, a key to the trench's secret. The camera rolled, its film capturing the glow, the patterns, the impossible, a record for the world, a proof that would silence the skeptics, the suits, the tabloids that had buried him. The tape recorder hummed, its reels spinning, capturing the silence that wasn't silent but heavy with the chance echo, a pulse that filled the sub, the sea his bones. The structure pulsed again, its glow a heartbeat, a summons, a promise, and Elias leaned forward, his eyes wide, his heart racing, the chant a pulse in his bones, whispering his name, a truth he'd die to uncover, a god he'd meet, no matter what it was, ship, machine, or something worse. Then it happened, a force, not a current but a will, seized La Sirena, a pull that wasn't physical but alive, yanking the sub toward the structure with a violence that threw Elias against his straps, the tape recorder clattering, the camera rattling in its mount. Rojas shouted, his voice raw. It's got us, Marrow. We're done. His hands slammed the controls, but the sub didn't respond, its propeller whining uselessly, the gauges frozen, the sonar screen a storm of spirals. The structure's glow intensified, its surface parting like a wound, revealing a hatch, not mechanical but organic, its edges quivering like lips, exhaling a faint mist that shimmered in the sub's dying lights. The hatch yawned wide, a maw large enough to swallow La Sirena whole, its interior pulsing with the same green glow, a tunnel that wasn't metal but flesh, alive, beckoning. Elias's heart raced, not with fear but with awe, his eyes wide, his breath shallow, the chant of fire that burned away the sub's lurching, Rojas's panic, the sea's weight. "It's letting us in," he whispered, his voice trembling with reverence. The sub surged forward, pulled by the structure's will, the hatch closing behind them with a wet, sucking sound, sealing them inside a chamber vast and alien, a cathedral of impossible geometry that defied every law Elias had taught in lecture halls. The chamber was a cavern, its walls not stone or steel but a translucent, gelatinous substance, veined with glowing filaments that pulsed in sync with the chant, casting a sickly green light that danced across the sub's dome. The walls curved upward, not in straight lines but in spirals, their surfaces slick, glistening like the inside of a living organ, etched with patterns that shifted, flowed, as if rewriting themselves in a language older than Earth. The air, or what passed for air, was heavy, humid, carrying a faint metallic tang, like blood mixed with ozone, and Elias realized with a jolt that the chamber wasn't filled with water, but a breathable liquid, a viscous medium that pressed against the sub, suspending it like a specimen in a jar. Bubbles rose from unseen vents, their surfaces iridescent, refracting the green light into prisms that hurt to look at, each one a tiny spiral, a fractal of the chamber's design. Elias unstrapped himself, his movements sluggish in the sub's tight space, his eyes locked on the chamber, his mind racing to catalog every detail, to make sense of the impossible. "It's alive," he said, his voice a feverish chant, his hands fumbling for the notebook, its pages already filling with sketches of the walls, the veins, the spirals. Not a ship, not a machine, a biology, a system, a god. The words slipped out, a nod to Miguel's warning, but Elias didn't flinch, his awe of fire that consumed the sub's creaks, Rojas's labored breathing, the chant's relentless pulse. He grabbed the camera, its film rolling, capturing the chamber's glow, the shifting walls, the truth he'd show the world, a proof that would silence the skeptics, the tabloids, the suits who'd buried him. Rojas was a statue, his hands still on the controls, his face a mask of panic, his eyes wide, reflecting the green light like twin moons. "We're inside it," he whispered, his voice cracking, his Puerto Rican accent thick with dread. "This ain't no wreck, gringo, this is hell. It ate my divers, it's gonna eat us." He crossed himself, his fingers trembling, his grizzled armor shattered. A man who'd faced storms, but not this, not a presence that saw him, knew him, claimed him. He reached for the hatch, as if he could climb out, swim back, but the sub was locked, the chamber's liquid pressing against the dome. A weight that wasn't just pressure but intent, a will that held them fast. Elias ignored him, his eyes tracing the chamber's walls, their translucent surfaces revealing glimpses of deeper structures. Tunnels, chambers, shapes that moved, not machines but organisms, their forms fluid, pulsing, connected by the glowing veins that ran like arteries through the walls. The veins weren't random but deliberate, a network that carried light, energy, something alive, their pulses syncing with the chant in Elias's head, a rhythm that wasn't sound but life, a language he didn't know but felt, speaking to him through him. The walls weren't static but responsive, their patterns shifting when Elias moved, as if watching, reacting. The chamber's floor, or what passed for a floor, was a mosaic of translucent panels, each one etched with spirals that glowed faintly, their surfaces slick, pulsating, like the skin of a deep-sea creature. Yet their scale was vast, a city of alien design. Beneath the panels, shadows moved, not fish but shapes, discs, spheres, things that weren't solid but fluid, their edges soft, organic, glowing with the same green light, a nursery of forms that weren't born but grown, not built but birthed. Elias's breath came in gasps, his heart pounding. "It's a factory," he muttered, his voice a feverish chant, his pencil snapping under the pressure, the lead smearing across the page. "Not a ship, not a wreck, a system, growing things, living things." He pointed to the shadows beneath the floor, the shapes moving, pulsing, a production line that wasn't mechanical but biological, a truth that wasn't human but cosmic, a god that wasn't a god but something older, eternal. The camera rolled, its film capturing the walls, the veins, the shadows, a record for the world, a proof that would rewrite science, silence the sneers, redeem his ruin. Rojas's voice broke through, a desperate shout, his hands slamming the controls, the subsystem still dead, the gauges frozen, the sonar screen a chaos of spirals. "You're loco, Mero," he yelled, his eyes wild, his face a mask of terror, a captain trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake from. "This thing's alive. It's gonna kill us, just like the divers, just like the stories. We gotta get out now." He grabbed a wrench, as if he could fight the chamber, the sea, the god, but his hands shook, his curses fading into a whimper. A man who'd sailed the trench but never entered it, never seen its heart. Elias didn't respond, his eyes locked on the walls, their translucent surfaces revealing glimpses of deeper chambers, tunnels that spiraled inward, downward, toward the structure's core. A heart that wasn't a heart but a mind, a will, a presence that knew him, saw him, claimed him. The chant was everywhere, a pulse in his bones, a vibration that shook his teeth, his spine, his soul, a voice that wasn't human but alive, whispering his name, a summons to a truth he'd die to uncover. He reached out, his hand trembling, and touched the dome, its surface cold but vibrating, as if it felt him back. The chamber responded, its walls rippling, the veins pulsing faster, the green light flaring, a heartbeat that shook the sub, the liquid, the air. Elias's mind reeled, his vision blurring, the chant a pulse that wasn't just heard but seen, a cascade of images, spirals, eyes, shapes that weren't shapes but ideas, a cosmos not empty but crowded, watched by things that didn't sleep, didn't die, just waited, their patience a predators, their purpose unknowable. He was nothing to them, a speck, yet they saw him, wanted him, and the chant was their invitation, their command. "Elias, come to us, come to the deep." The sub shuddered, the chamber's walls tightening, the liquid pressing harder, a will that wasn't just holding them but guiding them, deeper, toward the structure's core, the trench's heart, the god's mind. Elias scribbled faster, his notebook a chaos of spirals, curves, fragments of a truth he didn't understand but needed to, a map to a reality that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. The camera rolled, the tape recorder hummed, and Elias leaned forward, his eyes wide, his heart racing, the pulse in his bones whispering his name. The alien chamber pulsed around La Sirena, its translucent walls shimmering with green-veined light, the breathable liquid suspending the submersible like a fly in amber pushing it along, deeper into the tunnels. Rojas, slumped in the pilot's seat, clutched a wrench like a talisman, his grizzled face pale, his pale blue eyes reflecting the green glow, his Puerto Rican curses reduced to a hoarse whisper, a man broken by a truth too vast to fight. The liquid pressed against the sub's scratched plexiglass dome, not crushing but caressing, a medium that carried the chant, the presence that whispered Elias's name, something older, eternal, alive. Elias's gaze darted as they surged ever forward, the walls curving in spirals that defied perspective, their surfaces slick, translucent, revealing glimpses of deeper and deeper tunnels, chambers, shapes that moved. Not machines but organisms, their forms fluid, pulsing, connected by the glowing veins that ran like arteries through the structure. The floor was a mosaic of glowing panels, each etched with spirals that shifted, breathed, a nursery of shadows beneath, discs, spheres, things that weren't solid but alive, glowing with the same green light that had marked them on the horizon. Then he saw it, along the walls. Alcoves, dozens, hundreds, their edges soft, organic, like the mouths of sea anemones, each cradling a shape. A disc, no larger than a dinner plate, its surface liquid metal, rippling, etched with the same spiraling patterns that pulsed. The discs stirred, their surfaces quivering, and one detached, peeling away from its alcove like fruit from a vine, its edges shimmering as it floated into the liquid, propelled not by jets but by a will, a pulse that matched the chant in Elias's head. Another followed, then another, a silent swarm of discs forming around the sub, their movements graceful, deliberate, a ballet of alien intent. Elias's breath caught, his hands fumbling for the 16mm camera, its film rolling, capturing the discs as they drifted, their surfaces reflecting the green light in prisms that hurt to look at, each one a tiny spiral, a fractal of the chamber's design. "They're growing," he whispered, his voice a feverish chant, his notebook filling with sketches of the discs, their curves, their glow. Not built, not launched, born, like fruit, like cells dividing. Rojas's voice broke through, a ragged shout, his wrench raised, his eyes wild with panic. "Madre de Dios, Mero, what are they?" he croaked, his Puerto Rican accent thick, his grizzled armor shattered by the disc's silent dance, their presence a violation of everything he'd known as a sailor, a diver, a man. "This ain't no factory, it's a womb, and we're in its belly." He swung the wrench at the dome, as if he could break free, but the liquid cushioned the blow, the chamber's walls rippling in response, the veins pulsing faster, a heartbeat that shook the sub, the air, his bones. Elias ignored him, his eyes locked on the discs, their number growing, dozens now, floating in the liquid, their surfaces rippling, alive, each one a miniature of the structure itself, a seed, a spore, a child. He scribbled faster, his pencil snapping, the lead smearing across the page, his notes a chaos of spirals, curves, fragments of a language he didn't know but felt, a map to a truth that wasn't human but cosmic. "It's a factory," he muttered, his voice rising, a mantra against Rojas's panic, the sub's dead systems, the chance pull. A system, biological, not mechanical, growing these, sending them out into the sea, the sky, the stars. The words poured out, a scientist's mind grappling with the impossible, a man who'd lost MIT, Ellen, his name, finding redemption in this moment, a truth that would rewrite science, silence the skeptics, redeem his ruin. The discs moved closer, circling the sub, their surfaces reflecting the chamber's light, their spirals tightening, a pattern that wasn't just seen but felt, a vibration that shook Elias's teeth, his spine, his soul. One disc hovered near the dome, its surface rippling, a single eye-like shape forming at its center. Not an eye but a lens, a gaze that wasn't human but alive, seeing him, knowing him, claiming him. Elias's heart raced, his breath shallow, his hands trembling as he aimed the camera, the film capturing the disc, its eye, its spirals, a proof that would shatter the world's smug certainties. The tape recorder hummed, its reels spinning, capturing the silence that wasn't silent but heavy with the chance echo, a pulse that filled the chamber, the liquid, his bones. The chamber responded, its walls rippling, the veins pulsing faster, the green light flaring, a heartbeat that shook the sub, the liquid, the air. Elias reached out, his hand pressing against the dome, its surface vibrating, as if it felt him back. The disc's eye pulsed, and a vision hit him. Not a dream but a flood, a cascade of images, collapsing stars, nebulae spiraling into voids, planets cracking open, their cores glowing green. A cosmos not empty but crowded, watched by things that didn't sleep, didn't die, just waited, their patience of predators, their purpose unknowable. He saw Earth, a speck, its oceans pulsing with the same green light, its trenches alive, connected, a network older than life, older than time, a system that wasn't machine but a presence that saw him, wanted him, claimed him. Elias gasped, his vision clearing, his hands still on the dome, the disc retreating, joining its siblings in their silent dance. His notebook fell to the floor, its pages splayed, spirals smeared across them. A map to a reality he didn't understand but needed to, a truth that wasn't his but was now, undeniable, inescapable. "They're not UFOs," he whispered, his voice raw, his eyes wide, his heart racing. "They're offspring, extensions, pieces of this thing, this system, this God." The word hung heavy, but Elias didn't flinch, his awe of fire that consumed the sub's creaks, Rojas's whimpers, the chant's relentless pulse. Rojas lunged for the controls, his wrench clattering to the floor, his hands slamming switches, as if he could wake the sub, escape the chamber, the discs, the God. "We're dead, Marrow," he shouted, his voice breaking, his eyes reflecting the green light, twin moons in a face twisted with terror. "This thing's birthing monsters, and we're next. You did this, you and your damn tape." He grabbed Elias's arm, his grip desperate, his fingers digging into flesh, a captain trapped in a nightmare he couldn't wake from, a man who'd sailed the trench but never entered its heart, never seen its children. Elias pulled free, his eyes locked on the discs, their dance hypnotic, a ballet of alien intent, each one a seed, a spore, a child of the structure, the trench, the God. The camera rolled, the tape recorder hummed, capturing the truth, the proof, the impossible. The chamber's walls rippled again, the liquid shifting, guiding the sub deeper, toward a tunnel that spiraled inward, downward, toward the structure's core, a heart that wasn't a heart but a mind, a will, a presence that knew him, saw him, claimed him. The discs followed, their eyes pulsing, their spirals tightening, a chorus that wasn't sound but intent, a summons that clawed at his mind, pulling him deeper, to the trench, to the light, to the God. The sub moved deeper, the tunnel's walls closing in, the green light flaring, the disc circling, and Elias leaned forward, his eyes wide, his heart racing, the pulse in his bones whispering his name, a truth he'd die to uncover, a God he'd meet, no matter what it was, ship, machine, God, or something worse.